How's it going? John Connearn here with Neural DSP, and today we are checking out CorOS update 1.4.0 for the Quad Cortex. And in this update, there are brand new amps, overdrives, as well as loads of other effects, plus a brand new Minivoicer, and we're going to look at all of these in this video. One of the most notable and exciting features of this new CorOS update is the included Minivoicer. Now, this uses our intelligent Minivoicer algorithm to add 2 additional voices on top of your dry signal. The voicing library for this Minivoicer allows you to have complete control over the root note, modes, chords, as well as possibilities for arpeggiating. On top of that, you can then activate MIDI to instruct pitches for the Minivoicer within your QC. And to add the Minivoicer, all you would do is tap an empty space on the grid, scroll down to pitch devices, and you'll see there the Minivoicer. So looking at the first page of parameters for this Minivoicer, you'll see that we have a mix control between your dry and wet signal. We have a quantize feature that allows you to either snap the voices on top 2 notes or keep them fluid in between values if you want. You then have on and offs for voices 1 and 2 independently, as well as levels, the intervals, and the panning for each voice respectively. On page 2 of the Minivoicer's parameters, you'll see that you can select the root for your voices, as well as a major or minor setting. On top of that, you can then go into a chromatic mode where the root becomes blanked out, and that's because you don't need it when you have no key center. And then following on, you can then alter the tuning to a specific hertz setting if you wanted to, as well as a high pass and low pass for your voices. And then on this bottom row here, you can then activate MIDI, so you can trigger voices from an external device. And then finally, a glissando option so that your voices can glide in between notes. Moving on to amps, the first amp we've added is a Bogner Uber Clean, and here's how that sounds. The next amp we're going to have a look at is the Bogner Uber lead model. The next amp included in this CorOS update is called the D-Cell Hisbert, of which there are 3 channels as separate amps. I'm going to play through each of these amps so you can hear how they sound. final amp included in this CorOS update is the US HP Tweed TWN model. Now for this, there are 4 different models because there is both a bright and a normal, as well as a jumped option for both of those. So that's 4 options in total, and I'm going to play through each of them so you can hear how they all sound. We've added some new overdrives, and the first one we're going to have a look at is called the No Bell OD1, and here's how it sounds in front of the Bogner Uber lead amp. The next overdrive pedal we're going to have a look at is the red drive, and this is going into the front end of the new D-Cell Hisbert amp on channel 1. The third and final overdrive we've added to this update is called the Neural Ray overdrive, and this is going in to the channel 2 of the D-Cell Hisbert amp. In terms of effects, we've now added a dual delay unit to the delay devices in QC. Opening up the dual delay, you'll see that we have 2 pages of parameters, and on the first page we start off with the general mix control, and then below that X feedback. Now X feedback refers to the percentage chance that one channel will feed into the other. And then following on from that, you'll see that we have a sync option for both the left and right channels independently, giving you the option to either sync the delay times to a set note value using this control, or have the option of just setting it to a preferred millisecond value with the next 2 controls. And then finally, a feedback left and right for each of the 2 delays. Moving on to page 2 of the parameters, you'll see that we have a high pass and a low pass, allowing you to alter the high and low cuts of the delays. And then additionally, we have a modulation rate and modulation depth, so you can add modulation to your delays if desired. And then after that, we have a link feedback option that you can toggle on or off, and that will allow you to pair the two feedbacks of the delays to the same value. And then finally, we have a trails option for on and off as well. As part of this new CorOS update, we've added some new compressors, and the first model we're going to have a look at is called the Chief CS3. Now for this, I'm going to do some playing examples with it bypassed and engaged so you can hear how it sounds. On top of the Chief CS3 compressor model, we've also added some new stereo models to the compressor list, including the legendary 87, VCA, solid state, and opto compressors. And to demonstrate a stereo compressor here, I've added in the chain a VCA comp to the end of this preset after the delay and reverb to emphasize the reverb tail and bring that up in the gaps of my playing as a sort of creative application of a stereo compressor. And here's how it sounds. As part of this new CorOS update, we've included some new modulation devices, and the first one we're going to have a look at is called the Chief DC2W. Now there's a mono and a stereo version of this included in the update, and this first example is going to show the mono version. And here is the Chief DC2W in stereo after the amp. And then finally, another modulation device that we've added is the MX Phase 95, and here's how that sounds. We've also added a new wah into this CorOS update, and this wah model is called the Crying Wah. The first new feature that we're going to have a look at allows you to assign as many blocks as you want to a single foot switch in stomp mode. And to do that, you'll see that here, say if we go on this modulation device, you'll see here that that's assigned to E. So say, for example, if we then wanted to assign the delay to E, we would then click that, assign it to E by pressing foot switch E, and you'll see it then changes to E. And just while we're demonstrating this, let's also do the same for the reverb. And now when I press foot switch E, you'll see that those three blocks can be bypassed simultaneously. The next new feature of this update are the input gates on each preset. So when you create a new preset or go onto an existing preset, on each of these inputs, if you hold it down, you can then see that there is an input gate on each of these, and it's bypassed by default, but you would just turn it on and then your input gate is active. So now this input gate is active, you'll see that there's an orange bar over that input block, and just by default, the noise reduction is set to 30%. So I'm going to do a bit of playing now so you can see that input gate working. A new boot splash screen has been added to the Quad Cortex, so when you start up the unit, you can see the progress when it turns on. We've also added a recovery mode, so during the first 6 seconds of the splash screen, you can then press foot switches A and H, and that will allow you to restore the settings or do a factory reset of the unit. While using any mode of the Quad Cortex, you can now swap scene assignments for the foot switches within the QC. So to do that, you would then go to the top right, and as we're on scene A at the minute, let's swap scene A and the destination foot switch C. So now scene A is on foot switch C, and then if I toggle between that and B, for instance, you'll see that they change. A small new feature in this update is that you can now change the position of the cursor by rotating the up foot switch. When using the Quad Cortex as a USB interface, we've now added a page within the parameters so you can change which USB ins and outs send the dry or wet signal. And to access that, you go onto USB in your I/O settings, go onto page 2 here, and then changing that alters where they're sent. And additionally, there have been a few final changes just to the way the QC operates. And the first one is in terms of copying scenes. You can now no longer do that by operating the foot switches. In order to copy a scene and swap them, move them around, you would go into the main menu at the top right here with the 3 dots, and then you can see options to copy or swap scenes. And this is operable in any mode as well. Another small change is that when you add a reverb device to the grid, the mix control is the first parameter that's seen when you open up the controls. And another small UI change, to help you differentiate between mono and stereo devices, we've added M or ST to the names of the units in the device list. And then a final change is that when using the tuner, you can see the sharp and flat note values at the sides of the display. So these are a few highlights of the new CorOS 1.4.0 update for the Quad Cortex. This update is available now for you to download, and to see a full changelog of all the features, head on over to neuraldsp.com/news. I've been John Connearn, thanks for watching.